Oh, am I gone live? I did not mean to go live. Not quite yet. So, now that I know that we're live, I am going to have to get set up here. This was bad form, everyone. Bad form on my part. Y'all, should I say? Wow. Okay. Now that we're getting all dialed in, I wish I could cut this out. Bear with me, guys. I was not trying to go live and I hit the button, and thanks for dropping in, for being here. All right, whoops. Doggone. This is why you don't go get your phone set prematurely. This is exactly why. Farmall, thanks for being here, bro. I wasn't ready, and my phone went live on me. And I hit a button I wasn't trying to hit. And all right, so now I'm getting it all kind of set up. Now, I've got this new technique. All right, I am going to use a brand new method and something original to me. I got to thinking, and they make bags for grout. Well, if you don't have a bag for grout, all right, this is a giant Ziploc bag. I think it's like a gallon, considered a gallon Ziploc bag. All right, cut a small hole off the corner. Remember, you can always make it bigger. And that should be about right. Okay. Now I'm just going to take it and fill it with my thin set. Then I'm going to apply it so I can have a more of a controlled application here. And I did a video on how to mix thin set. And in that video, I was talking about what to do and what not, but I never mentioned you mix it up, get it all mixed, let it set for a couple minutes, mix it up again, and then you can use it. Okay? That's something I left out of the other video. Now I'm going to put this thin set down here on the back side of this corner. And it's working here. My last video, I was wanting to show this, but I ended up taking up in the way. I was just in the way of the camera, had no clue. And then afterwards, I'm going, oh, that was bad. So, Farmall, if you're still here, thanks for being here. Yeah, my little frustrating, my camera getting started before I was quite ready for it. But thanks for dropping in, appreciate it. All right, now, here we go. Now, I'm going to take this, you can zip up the Ziploc, okay. Now, all I'm going to do is, I'm going to hold this top, I'm going to come over here, start in this corner, and just slightly squeeze. And you can see I've got a real thin bead, a thin set going. Now, if I need it bigger, then I can do that. But really, in these rocks, so you don't get much thin set, it'll get it down in between the rocks, and you're not going to have an excessive amount to fight with, and it'll be completely solid and thin set, and you're not having to I shouldn't have a whole bunch of wiping and cleaning up to do as an end result. Okay, I just got to make sure I get this down in between them and it's solid from the bottom up. Make sure all these joints in here are full of thin set. It's a little more time consuming, of course, in the application, but in the big picture, it's going to be less time on the cleanup, and that's why I've decided to do it like this. They do make a bag, but you can buy, but if you're not doing it for a living, why spend the money on a bag when you can cut the hole you want in the Ziploc bag and get it exactly the way you want it to start with, so it's not too big. Okay? So I'm just going in and around these river rocks, and there are a few small polished stones in here that are designed for crafts that I've used just to kind of fill in the gaps. In areas I thought the gap was too big. And I got those from the craft store. But I've seen some where there's huge gaps between the rocks, and it doesn't look bad, actually. Okay, next thing I'm going to do when I get all this in place, okay, is I'm getting underneath this rock. I'm filling it from pushing it into the bottom underneath them, if they've got any space at the bottom, okay? And so this bag really is working well. I've never seen anyone do this. I would assume somebody's done this before. I don't know that. But I know I thought of it the other day, and I thought I'd give it a shot. And I'm liking it, actually. It's much more controlled, and it's working really well. Really well. And then I can always go back and fill in more if I need to. Okay. And when I get this bag gets empty, I'm going to go over this area here that I'm filling with the sponge trowel. Which will help to kind of smooth it out a bit. And getting this corner worked. Kind of pressing this down in there. All right, we're getting a little low. Okay. There's a little stone I stuck in there. I'm going to fill that in there and put the stone in. All right. Keep on moving. This is kind of like using a caulking gun, actually. You kind of use it the same way as you would if it was a caulking gun. Actually. So if you ever make one of these, remember, you just use it no different than if you had a caulking gun. And you just fill it all in. I don't know who's here. I'll check the chat. when I get a second. If you have any questions, put it in the comments there, and I'll be sure to get back to you and answer your questions. So here's one of them that I set in there. Okay, and I'm just going to set that in there and come over the back side and around the sides of it. Okay. And this is working really nice. And I've cut maybe like maybe about 3/16 off the tip, back from the tip, when I cut this hole. Remember, if you squeeze too hard, or if it's too thick, you can rip the opening on the bag. So keep that in mind. If you ever do this, not to get it too thick. You don't want too much pressure, and it doesn't take much pressure actually to get this to work. All right. And I have definitely made it a point not to get this too wet, so that it gets in here. And because remember, when I wipe it down with the sponge, that sponge is going to be damp, which is going to add wetness, quote unquote, to this. And so you want to keep that in mind as well. All right. So I'm finishing up this bag, getting this last little space in here. All right, I think I've got this area. You don't want to miss anything. All right. Now, I'm going to see what you're seeing here. Check our chat real quick. Only one person here, really? Who's here? Well, thanks for dropping in. It's hard to see who's been here, but I'll definitely go to your channel afterwards. RG, if you're still here, thanks for being here. Now I'm going to hit with my sponge trowel. Okay, and I've already dampened it. I'm going to catch this corner first. Catch the corner. Okay. Looks like I'm going to have to put a little bit more on this outer edge around the wall. Make it a little thicker. See? And this is actually working pretty well. And this is the first time I've done this. But that worked great. But I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and add and spread this here. Okay. So that bag also works for your corners. For filling in your corners on regular, when you go to tile, it definitely works great. Using this bag for filling corners, big joints, on that kind of thing. All right. So I'm going to get this up against the wall here. You definitely want that completely solid and no gaps, no holes. You want to come solid and filled. All right. And this bag would works. But I needed to get this filled in a little more. And got it set up just a little dry. Okay. Now what I found on this other side that I've completed in doing this other side is that you come in with a dry, slightly damp sponge. You wipe it once it starts to set up, and then you let it set a little more. You come in with a little same, just slightly damp sponge. You let it set up, and then you come in with the sponge that's wetter and do it again, and then you just let it dry overnight. And then you come back and you have a wet sponge. It's now completely dry, and you just kind of wipe off the haze and clean it up. And you have what I'm looking at on this other side here, where I'm sitting. Well, not really sitting, but you know what I'm saying. The other thing I observed here while now that I'm grouting and gone back to just putting it in, is you really got to watch the crevices, the joints around the rock. Because you got to get it heavier than what I was doing, because I was noticing that there were some areas where it wasn't filled in solid enough. It wasn't quite solid enough. And so that's why I just poured it, started scooping it on top of the rocks, these river rocks, because I didn't like some of the thin spots between them. So if you take your time, you can do that. It's more controlled, and it will save you time. But I've never done this. This is the first time to do that. First time to lay this river rock, and like I was saying, my last video, this river rock is really user-friendly. And if you've never laid tile, this is a good place to start. Although the cleanup can be a pain. But remember, you don't want your thin set too thin. You want it fairly thick. And that way it's not real wet to begin with. And it makes the overall job easier, because remember, your sponge is wet, and so it'll thin out your thin set, and it'll become a mess. So you got to kind of make sure it sets up partially between when you're wiping it down, and you just got to play with the consistency as far as in how wet your your sponges. Like I said, you want it real wet. You don't want it wet. You want it slightly wet. Here in the beginning of this, you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. And just kind of get that down. That corner right there. Okay. That corner right there. There we go. All right, now get this wiped down while I'm doing this. So I'm getting ready to go over this rock with a very slightly damp sponge. Okay, this sponge is slightly, I mean barely wet. Barely, okay? So, okay, and I'm just going around from this wall and breaking it forward. Getting over here in that corner, this outer edge. And then this is what I'm saying here. See, if this sponge was wet, I'd be making a mess. But I'm going to rake off some of the excess now that's on the top. And this is what I was trying to avoid, and that was one of the reasons why I was started out using the bag, so I didn't have a bunch of excess on top like this, because it saves you the work of having to do this, okay? Now, so I'm picking up the excess grout here, and if you've seen the first video on my grouting part 1, I put up yesterday, day before, you'll see how that I actually will take the sponge at the end and then go around each individual stone as I do this. But that's towards the end, after it's set up a bit more. And so you'll be able to come back later if you don't, you're not able to sit here. If you have things to do, you can come back later when I re-upload it. And watch what I'm talking about. Okay, now you can see the stones kind of revealing themselves. I'm wiping that surface off back here. I'm not sure how well it's showing up right now. But this is why you don't want a real wet. And this is wrung out. I mean, look, there's no water running out of this. Okay, but it's still just spreading the thin set everywhere. Okay. So I'm going to have to just give this a few minutes to set up here so I can continue to wipe this down. Okay. But now you know why I started out using the bag. The bag solves this problem, but you really got to make sure you take your time while using that bag and making sure you're filling all the crevices between the rock, making sure you're filling them from there's a whole gap in the bottom. You make sure you you fill it with thin set. Okay, my finger here, kind of get that smoothed out. Okay. And come back here. Okay. You want to catch this from all directions so that you make sure you're really pushing that thin set everywhere so it goes down in between and around, and you got a nice solid fill. Where you're pushing this thin set. Okay. Because if you notice, I'm spreading this, taking this excess that's back here and spreading it around. I'm just kind of filling this in here by hand a little bit. Okay. Now, as this is setting up, I got to go mix more of this thin set. Them out, and I'm going to give this a slight once over with a slightly wetter sponge, which will help to keep this moist while I'm mixing this new batch of thin set. Okay. This is slightly wetter sponge. Okay. Okay. Now, once again, you can see that this is working a little better. So wetter here. And this will help to keep it moist until I get back. Okay. See, once again, you can begin to see the rocks reveal themselves here. The stones. Okay, it's starting to take shape. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, what is a video worth? How many words? That's the question. A picture is worth 1,000 words. How many words is a video worth? Just saying. You know, I was debating whether I should go live when I did this. But, you know, I figured that way it gives everybody who doesn't know each other to kind of get acquainted while I'm doing this. You know, trying to make a live stream will be something that can be monetized. Give it more value. Make it monetizable. That's what I'm talking about. Why not kill two birds with one stone? Get a bigger bang for your buck. Make a monetizable live stream. I don't think a whole lot of people are considering or thinking about that. It's something I've been saying now for a while. I've even had a live stream a video discussing that aspect. Monetizable live streams. Next big topic on YouTube. But you heard it here first. All right. Now time to go mix. And, well, I guess I'm going to have to take you with me here. So you're not just sitting here looking at this. That'd be boring. But then if there's nobody here, I understand. That's for sure. My Vice this is turning off. We're shutting down. I'll have to start it back up. Thanks for being here.